Am I wrong for refusing to pay my sister's bill and giving her information to the restaurant after she ditched me? This happened last night. My sister and her boyfriend recently moved to a town next to mine. I was excited as we'll be able to see more of each other now. Nearby, there's a downtown center that has a lot of shopping, restaurants, galleries, etc. There is one upscale restaurant that both my husband and I love. A dinner for two will run you about $200 to $250, so it's not a place we frequently go to. My sister called me last week and invited us out to dinner with them at the restaurant last night. I reminded her it was an upscale place and to take a look at the menu beforehand because they are pricey and we can go somewhere else, tons of other great places to choose from. She said they still wanted to go. We hadn't been there in a while, so we accepted. Dinner was great. At the end of the meal, my sister excuses herself to the bathroom, and when she doesn't come back relatively soon, her boyfriend goes to find her. After a while, neither of them comes back. We go to check for them and they are gone. I call and text her and she texts me back saying that they've left, but thanks for dinner. It was just as amazing as you said it would be. I asked her what she meant, but no response. I texted again asking if she really just stuck us with the bill and no response. I then texted that I never agreed to pay for them and that she had 30 minutes to come back to the restaurant, or I'll give the restaurant all her information and they will likely involve the police. No response. At the 30-minute mark, I called and texted and got no response. So I stayed true to my word. I paid for mine and my husband's portion and gave all her information to the manager for their portion and then left. The next day, she called me back upset that she's been getting calls from the restaurant asking her to come pay or they'll contact the police. No shit, Sherlock. I said I'm not surprised since she skipped out on her bill. She said she thought I was paying the tab since I've paid for our dinners in the past. I have paid for her and me only, and dinners where the total tab was $60 max. I said this was obviously different than all the other times we met for dinner. This was all four of us and at an upscale restaurant, and I was not paying the $450 tab and she had to cover her portion. I reminded her that she invited us out and chose the restaurant. I specifically asked if she wanted to go somewhere else, but she is the one who insisted on going to this restaurant. She then said she thought I just paid, but when I asked the waiter for separate checks, she realized I wasn't and left for the bathroom planning to ditch. I said that since the restaurant hadn't contacted the police yet, all she had to do was go in and pay and it would be settled. She didn't want to do that because it would be too embarrassing and asked me to cover it. I again said no and that she had to take care of it herself. Clearly, I will not be paying for anything ever again. Our family has now gotten involved and I am being pressured to just pay the bill. So am I wrong if I don't and let the restaurant call the police? Oh my gosh. Yo, there's also an edit on here showing that the sister is in her mid-30s, so it's not like she's a teenager who can't pay for her stuff. This girl is a grown adult. Am I wrong for being an ungrateful, spoiled brat for the Christmas gift my husband got me? I, 35 female, want to begin by saying this, that in every holiday, me and my husband, male 33, both work decent jobs, set separate budgets for gifts. He uses his own money to buy gifts, and I do the same. We've been married for almost a year, together for 3. This is our first Christmas as a married couple. He made a list of everyone he was trying to buy a gift for. I stumbled upon the list by accident and out of curiosity decided to take a look. I found that his friends and coworkers were on top of his list with gifts that cost over $5,000 total. For example, he got a $600 wristwatch for his coworkers, a $250 bracelet for his sister-in-law, and a $900 workout gear for his friend. Damn! That's a nice-ass dude. What the hell? I wonder what he got you. There was more, but that's all I could remember. What made me upset was that when I got to my name, I saw that he bought me a $20 something kitchen spoon set, stainless steel. I was too shocked to ignore this, and I had a confrontation. My bad. I thought if he's spending all that kind of money on his friends and shit, I thought he'd at least get you something nice. He argued that A, it's his money and he's the one paying, so I should not control that. And B, his coworkers and friends are important to him and he's known them for ages. I don't like that response. What the heck? C, he said a gift should be appreciated no matter what it cost. But dude, you're getting her a $20 kitchen spoon and you're buying your friend a $900 workout gear. It's your first Christmas together as a married couple. And you've only been married for, what, a year? And you've only been together for 3? You can't lose a feeling that fast. I argued that he was disrespecting me and dismissing my feeling with the gift he chose to get me. Not to mention I spent a lot of money for his gifts to buy him his favorite shoe and gaming brands. But he got upset and said I was acting like an ungrateful, spoiled brat and urged me to get rid of this attitude and accept what I'm giving. The argument got worse and we stopped talking to each other. He still says I'm being ridiculous with my overreaction and should stop. So, did I overreact? I mean, I guess if you're like a spoon collector or something and this is like the last spoon you've been waiting for or like looking for, then I guess it's an okay gift. But I'd be butthurt too if he was getting everyone else like $250 minimum gifts and I got a spoon. A spoon? Return his gifts. Return all his gifts. I would be spiteful like that. Next! Am I the asshole for not letting my best friend have her wedding on my property after being uninvited? One of my 29-year-old male best friend Carla, 31-year-old female, is getting married soon. It's only meant to be a small backyard type of wedding, but they've been planning it for a few months now, and originally it was supposed to be on my property. They wanted it because it's private, has lots of open space for their reception, a nice view, and the house could be used for them to get ready and stuff. Of course I said yes. She and her fiancé Rick were very happy. The thing is, Carla and I do have a history. We went out on and off in college, but decided to stay friends. Then I met my wife, we got married, and and Carla met Rick, and now here they are. Now my wife knows I went out with Carla back in college and she didn't care. Carla still went to our wedding and everything. I never knew if Rick was told or not. It's not my relationship, therefore not my business to say anything, so I never did. Rick found out recently and not in the best way. Not sure how, but from what I heard from friends is that one mutual friend told him no idea why we used to date. Not only that, but apparently Carla said a couple of years ago she was still in love with me when she was already dating Rick. I don't have actual confirmation if that's exactly what he was told. All Carla's told me is that Rick was told about our past and he's angry at her for never saying anything. It became quite the drama and I didn't hear from her over a month until now. She told me they're still going to couples counseling and that the wedding is still on, but Rick requested that I not attend. It sucks, but I totally get why he wouldn't be comfortable. Then I asked the obvious question, where are they going to hold the wedding then? To my surprise, she said they still want to have it at our place. Rick said so too, and in my mind I'm going, he doesn't want the guy who dated his fiance years ago at the wedding, but still wants the wedding at his house. So my wife and I are expected to just not be at our house that weekend. I told Carla no, they're going to have to find someplace else since we're not going to simply leave our home to them for the weekend. Not only for safety reasons, but it just doesn't make sense. Rick doesn't want me around because he's not comfortable, but is comfortable enough to have their wedding at my house. They really want their wedding here though, and because of that, I've been bugged by not only her and Rick, but also some friends who think I'm being a petty asshole for not letting them have the wedding here anymore. Honestly, I don't think I am. It just doesn't make sense at all to have to leave our own place for a wedding we're no longer welcome to and leaving our home totally vulnerable. Still, I'm being accused of sabotaging their wedding, and Rick believes it's the least I can do after everything. So, am I the asshole?
Storytime about how he cheated on his baby mama with me. So a little background information. There was this boy and we're going to call him John. John and I knew each other through one of our mutual friends. Well, 24/7, John would post sad quotes on his Snapchat story because him and his girlfriend had just broken up. So I decided that I was going to be Captain Save-A-Ho and be there for him, telling him it was okay and that everything happens for a reason. Well, eventually John had developed a huge crush on me. Like, he would flirt with me 24/7, sending me all these cute emojis. And of course, my dumbass fell for it. So after talking for a little bit, him and I started dating. Well, the one day I was on Snapchat going through his story, and he was posting a bunch of funny memes on his story, and I was just laughing until I got to the last thing that he posted on his story. It was this picture of a baby girl saying, "I can't wait to meet you from Dada." So with my crazy ass, I jumped on the phone and started cussing him out. And then he goes, "What are you talking about? That's my little sister." Like for part 2. Part 2 about how he cheated on his baby mama with me. So like I said, when I confronted him about it, he said that it was a picture of his baby sister. Always with the Alabama shit, for what reason, I don't know. But he calls me the next day and he starts apologizing about everything. And then he decides to make a new Snapchat account and starts talking to me on there, thinking that I was just gonna block his other account. He posts a picture of his baby mama. So at this point, my Virgo self and I were done with the bullshit. By the way, he's a Gemini, so if that doesn't explain it, I don't know what will. So I start dating my new man, and I commented on all of his posts. I guess I'm not surprised she's not the only bitch you're fucking with. And if you try lying, I'm going to spill the tea. Like, I just think that it's really funny how females just think that their men are so loyal, even when you literally expose their man with every piece of evidence. Well, the girl who sent this in has a special message for all of us. I promise you that men ain't shit. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Storytime about how I found my uncle sleeping with my best friend. So a little background information. I was 18 at the time and a freshman in college. My uncle was a National Guard, and we were the same age, we went to the same school, and we also had the same friends. And while he was away, I had made one friend that he didn't know about. Her and I became best friends, we got into the same college, and we were in the same dorm room together. Well, the one day my uncle came to my college to surprise me. I ran up to him, I gave him a big hug, and my best friend was super confused because I had never introduced them. And when I introduced them, there was this weird, awkward vibe. So all three of us went back to the dorm room, and I asked her if it was okay that he spent the night, because I didn't want to be that person to just invade her space. So she ended up saying yes, and eventually we all got really hungry, and we all wanted Chick-fil-A, so I went and I left them all alone in the room together. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I found my uncle sleeping with my best friend. So like I said, I went to go get us Chick-fil-A and I left them in the dorm all alone together. While I was waiting in line, I called them to ask what they wanted and nobody answered the phone. So I was like, okay, whatever, it's fine. They're probably just busy talking. So I low-key took a long time because I went to the grocery store to get some cookies. I was just craving them. So then I get back to the dorm room. As soon as I open the door, I see both of them unclothed on top of each other on the bed, doing the nasty. So for some reason, I had a broom and I threw it at my uncle and I went to my friend's apartment that night. And when I told my mom about it, she said that it was my fault because weirdly enough, they praised all the boys in my family.
My ex and I met when we were both 10. She was and still is my twin sister's best friend, so we've always been kind of a trio growing up. We started dating at 14 and got married at 23. Things got ugly though, because 5 years after getting married, she told me that she had a month-long affair with her coworker. Apparently, the guilt was too much for her, so she confessed. We tried to work through it, but after a few months of trying, I knew that despite the fact that I loved her, I couldn't trust her anymore. She told me that she still loved me and that she'd wait for me and prove that I was the only one. I wanted to believe her, but some things just can't be fixed. We never had kids. 3 years after the divorce, I met my now wife and we got married 2 years after dating. She's everything I could ever dream of in a wife and more. My ex, as my sister told me since they're still besties, never really recovered. She quit her job and is now working at a church. Throughout my relationship with my wife, she kept trying to get back together, and on the day of my wedding, she told me that she still loved me and would love no one else. She said this was the last time that she would bother me, but that she'll wait for however long it took. Apparently, she's honest in that regard because my sister said that she's never been with anyone else. So here's what happened recently. My wife and I are married for 7 years now, have 2 kids. My sister came over with her own kids so the cousins could play. When my wife went to pick out lunch, my sister sat me down and told me the situation about my ex. Apparently, she only has less than 6 months to live. She refused treatment and wants to live the last few months to the fullest. I guess that's why her and my sister really went out of their way to travel despite the pandemic. One thing on her bucket list though was that she wanted to feel like my wife again. No sex, no kissing, she just wanted me to be around the house again and maybe hold her from time to time. She still lives in the house that we lived in. I told her that I wouldn't do that because it was pretty much emotional cheating. My sister kept arguing and begging me to at least see her and hear her out. We kept arguing until my wife came back. My sister told her the whole story, and while she looked upset, she said that she understood where my ex was coming from. When my sister left, my wife and I talked about it. My wife knows everything that happened in the past with my ex. She says while she isn't thrilled about the idea, she won't get upset if I decide to go see her on a regular basis. My wife is literally the best thing that ever happened to me, and I love her more than anyone. She makes me happier than I've ever been in my life, even in the good times with my ex. She knows I won't cheat. I also have zero romantic feelings for my ex, so there's nothing lingering there. I don't hate her or anything, it's just the love that I had for her has long since died. After thinking about it for a while, I'm honestly 50-50 on it. I know I don't owe her anything, but I feel like I might regret not seeing her at least one more time since the last time I saw her was on my wedding day, and that wasn't a good encounter for either of us. I honestly feel like, despite what she did, she still deserves to go with some peace. On the other hand, I'm not entirely sure if this might potentially affect our marriage. My wife says she's okay with it, and I believe her, but I just can't be sure that she'll feel the same way after it happens. I don't want anything to jeopardize what I have right now, no matter what. I'm not too thrilled about going myself, to be honest. What should I do? Part 2. My ex wants me to be with her in her last days. I talked to my wife and had a long discussion about the whole situation. I assured her that no matter what, she is and always will be my first priority. I also reassured her that while I wanted to say my goodbye, I would never act like her partner. It would be more like me seeing a childhood friend or something like that. I also said I would never spend the night, nor would I be alone with her. She was more comfortable after our talk and was pretty okay with the idea of me seeing my ex again. Originally, she really felt like she was being forced into being okay with it when my sister asked, but this time she was really okay. I talked to my sister, and after a long heated discussion, she agreed to the boundaries my wife and I set. A week later, my sister and I came over to our old marital home. It was surreal because while the emotions from years before came back to me, I didn't feel any sadness, hatred, or anything negative. I saw my ex, who was waiting for us in the living room, and she cried when I walked in. You could tell almost immediately that something was wrong with her. I indulged her with a hug and we talked for a few hours while my sister made lunch. I showed her pictures of my kids and told her stories about what they're like. Honestly, I didn't know how I would react after I saw her again, but it just feels like seeing an old friend you haven't seen in a long time. There was no hate or anything like that. I walked around the house and it was pretty much the way it was when I left over a decade ago. I'm not really sure how I feel about our wedding photos still framed in pictures of us all over the house, but it really wasn't my place to say anything. The 3 of us had lunch and played board games all afternoon. It honestly felt like we were back to when we were kids and the 3 of us would hang out together. It was nice. I left around 6. She was sad, but she understood. When I hugged her goodbye, she whispered I love you to me, but then said how she's happy I was able to find the happiness she couldn't give me. That part got to me, and to be honest, I was fighting back tears. I told her that I'd see her again soon, and she asked if I could bring my kids next time. I told her I would and left to pick up dinner for my family. I told my wife everything that happened, and she was quite happy about the outcome. I guess it helped that I brought home her favorite food, but she also agreed to let me bring the kids next time. Overall, it was a great experience seeing her again. I feel like I needed that, and I would have regretted not doing so. She made a mistake and paid the price, but it doesn't mean that she's an evil person. I met a guy on Tinder a few weeks ago and we seemed to really hit it off. We had a lot of the same hobbies and I felt the spark between us, and I'm sure he felt too. After we got past the talking phase, we decided to meet at his house for coffee. It was great when I arrived. We talked loads and even held hands. However, I was on the 3rd day of my period, and after a couple of hours, I needed to change my pad. I asked for the bathroom and he directs me to it. After I finished changing, I noticed his trash can is pretty full. Not sure what to do, I wrap it in toilet paper and sort of smooth it into the trash can so it isn't sitting on the edge. We hang out for about an hour more and he excuses himself to the bathroom. A few minutes pass by and he comes out and says that he needs to talk to me. Then he says I shouldn't have thrown away my pad because he might touch it when he's taking out the trash and that it was gross and unsanitary. Apparently, he saw that the trash looked different, unwrapped the toilet paper, and saw my used pad. I was mortified. I apologized profusely and he seemed to take it well. He told me not to do it again, and if I needed to, just to walk a few blocks to the nearby grocery store to change. I left after that, not to think too much of it. However, I recounted the events to a few friends and they think he's a major a-hole. He was really kind about it and didn't seem to get angry, but I'm also starting to see their point too. Was I wrong to change my pad in his house? My boyfriend and I met 6 years ago when I was sad and eating alone at the bar of a restaurant. It was really love at first sight, but the connection was even stronger after we sat down and started talking. We discovered that not only did we have a ton of great things in common, but we also shared the pain of going through separate divorces during this time. We were both now separated from our spouses, single parents, and going through messy divorces. We exchanged information, but I decided that we both had too much going on, so I never reached out to him and he never contacted me. Over the next year, he crossed my mind, so after my divorce was final, I decided to send him a text. We chatted about being out of our marriages and decided to meet up for dinner. We met and the connection was still there. Things moved pretty fast and within 6 months we were living together. We both co-parent, so our children are with us at different times during the month. He always seemed to battle with their mother over visitation, but I stayed out of it. I've grown fond of his children as he has of mine. We've been happily living together as a blended family for about 5 years. Whenever I mentioned marriage, he always said that his last relationship soured his feelings on it. He's often reassured me that we didn't need marriage to be a family. We have recently began talking about purchasing a waterfront home as a family property for our kids and possibly retiring there. He's been a great partner and is always planning our future, so my talk about marriage quickly faded. Last month, he planned to surprise me by throwing me a party with close friends and family. Due to state restrictions, he could only invite a certain number of people. An angry family member of his that wasn't invited decided to be messy and spread rumors that it was an engagement party. The following day, I get a text from an unknown number. When I asked who was sending the text, the response was his wife. I confronted my boyfriend and he admitted that he never divorced. She wouldn't give him the divorce and threatened to move away with their children if he went through with it. She also wanted to pursue counseling and wanted him to move back home to give the marriage another try. He complied with not filing for divorce but refused to consider the other demands. It was around this time that he reconnected with me and decided to just move on with his life. Since her text, I've learned that she frequently posts on his social media about their marriage. She'll use old pictures and some current innocent pictures of them together at events for their kids. The captions on the pictures often refer to them as if they were still together. He confronted her about it and she said that he'll be back to her and kept referring to our relationship as an affair. Now that I found out, he's promised to no longer be fearful of her threats and plan to pursue the divorce in custody. However, I'm not sure what I should do in this situation. I'd be so sad without him and his children in my life. Should I walk away or should I give him time to fix it?
Storytime about how I found my uncle sleeping with my best friend. So a little background information. I was 18 at the time and a freshman in college. My uncle was a National Guard, and we were the same age, we went to the same school, and we also had the same friends. And while he was away, I had made one friend that he didn't know about. Her and I became best friends, we got into the same college, and we were in the same dorm room together. Well, the one day my uncle came to my college to surprise me. I ran up to him, I gave him a big hug, and my best friend was super confused because I had never introduced them. And when I introduced them, there was this weird, awkward vibe. So all three of us went back to the dorm room, and I asked her if it was okay that he spent the night, because I didn't want to be that person to just invade her space. So she ended up saying yes, and eventually we all got really hungry, and we all wanted Chick-fil-A, so I went and I left them all alone in the room together. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how I found my uncle sleeping with my best friend. So like I said, I went to go get us Chick-fil-A and I left them in the dorm all alone together. While I was waiting in line, I called them to ask what they wanted and nobody answered the phone. So I was like, okay, whatever, it's fine. They're probably just busy talking. So I low-key took a long time because I went to the grocery store to get some cookies. I was just craving them. So then I get back to the dorm room. As soon as I open the door, I see both of them unclothed on top of each other on the bed, doing the nasty. So for some reason, I had a broom and I threw it at my uncle and I went to my friend's apartment that night. And when I told my mom about it, she said that it was my fault because weirdly enough, they praised all the boys in my family. Storytime about how my boyfriend found out that I was cheating on him with his best friend. So a little background information. We're gonna call my boyfriend Tyler. Tyler and I had been dating since he was 16 and I was 13. And now it was my freshman year in high school and his senior year. And we're gonna call his best friend Jaden. Now, there was one really big problem with Tyler and I's relationship. I was pretty much dating Jaden, too. Now, if you don't get what I mean by that, Jaden was there for literally every single thing that we did in our relationship. Anytime I would invite Tyler over, guess who was walking in right behind him? Jaden. Anytime that Tyler and I went on dates, guess who was there? Jaden. And there wouldn't even be another girl there. He would literally just third wheel on our dates. And I talked to Tyler about it before and he's like, well, I don't know what you want me to do. He's my best friend. So fast forward, the one day Tyler and Jaden are both over my house. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how my boyfriend found out that I was cheating on him with his best friend. So like I said, Jaden and Tyler are both at my house. And Tyler ends up getting a call. And it was his mom telling him that his brother had just passed away. So Tyler told Jaden that he needed to find a ride home. And after that, Tyler left immediately. Now me, I do not know what the hell to do. Because Jaden and I had never been left alone before. And it wasn't really because Tyler didn't trust us. It was more of though we didn't really have a reason to be alone together. So that night he was supposed to wait for my parents to get home so that way they could drive him. But I ended up getting him an Uber because he said that he liked me and I did not know what to do. Fast forward, while my boyfriend is in the grieving stages, I was messing with his best friend behind his back. And the one day he had walked in on us doing spicy things. And after, he had his whole family posting things about me on Facebook saying that I was a whore and everything.
Storytime, my best friend cheated on his girlfriend with me. So a little background information. So Gavin and I had been best friends ever since we were little. We lived in the same neighborhood, and my parents and his grandparents were, pretty close, I guess. But, everybody in our neighborhood was close with each other. And I always had a huge crush on him. And I would try to, subtly tell him that I liked him. But he would always be like, ew, don't joke with me like that. That's not true. And eventually, I just kind of got the hint that that was his way of telling me, I don't like you. Stop before I tell you, in a mean way. So when we were in middle school, he was always having these, 2-day relationships with all these girls and everything. And me, not so much, because sis didn't have a glow up until she reached, her sophomore year in high school. And the thing was, I wasn't that best friend who would be like, ew, don't date her, she's ugly, or anything like that. I would totally respect all of his relationships, even if they were 2 days long, but he would literally still block me. Well, the one day we were hanging out at his house, for part 2. About how my best friend cheated on his girlfriend with me. So like I said, the one night I was at his house and he was on my phone and he was asking me who all these guys were on my Snapchat. And I told him that I had been talking to them and he was just being super toxic. He was talking shit on every single one of them. So eventually I started dating this guy, Trey, and after that he texted me saying that I was gross and everything else, when the next day he literally got a girlfriend. But weirdly enough, he didn't block me that time. He actually started texting me more, saying how him and his girlfriend were so happy together, da-da-da-da-da. And unlike him, I would be supportive. Well, the one night at 2 a.m., he came over my house, and he was like, I don't have feelings for my girlfriend. And I'm like, okay, then why are you with her? And then he has the nerve to say, don't you get that I like you? Really? Well, eventually we cut off all communication, and he was still with this girl. Well, the one night he asked me to come over and talk, and we ended up doing the nasty. And then he blocked me on everything, after he said we should both leave our girlfriends and boyfriends. Well, I ended up telling his girlfriend what we did, and they also come to my family cookouts.
Story time about my extremely toxic boyfriend. So when I was in high school, I was dating this boy for 3 months. We're gonna call him Nick. And my friends hated him because he was super mean to all of them, but he was super nice to me. Well, after dating for about a month, he started acting super weird. He stopped paying attention to me, he didn't want to hang out with me. And I was going through a depression this time because my dad had just died. I wasn't really doing my makeup anymore, I wouldn't do my hair anymore, and I started gaining a little bit of weight because all I would do is sleep in bed all the time, eat 24/7. Well, soon our 2 months was coming up, and he wanted to go to this party. So I literally begged him to FaceTime me, and I was asking him, oh, what should I wear? So I put on this dress that was really tight-fitting, which I was already super uncomfortable about wearing because of the fact that I had a little bit of a belly now. So he picks me up, we go to this party, and I go and I start hanging out with a few of my friends. Well, one of my friends comes over and shows me something that he posted on his private story, for part 2. Part 2 about my extremely toxic boyfriend. So like I said, one of my friends comes over and shows me something that he posted on his private story. It was literally a screen recording of me trying to get the dress on that was super tight fitting. And then a screenshot of my face after, when I had the dress on. Because obviously I was upset that it didn't fit the way it did before. And the video said, imagine having a girlfriend that was fat as hell. Ew, I have one. Then the picture of me said, ew, she's sad now, what the fuck, go to the gym and lose some weight. On his private story, which had one of my friends, and she was super pretty, and apparently he tried getting with her. That's a whole nother story. So after that, I Ubered home from the party, and as soon as I got home, I started crying, and I told my older brother about it. So he literally drove us back to the party and beat the absolute shit out of my boyfriend. Well, someone called the cops, my brother spent a night in jail, and my boyfriend got an underage. And my brother won't talk to me now because I'm back with my boyfriend. Story time about the girl who was absolutely obsessed with me in high school. So it was my junior year in high school, and I'm just gonna tell you guys the first story of how I knew that she was absolutely obsessed with me and wanted to be me. Well, I had been dating this guy for a month, and I sent him nudes. Well, my nudes got spread around the school. And everybody knew they were mine until this one girl, and we're gonna call her Addie, started saying that they were hers. I guess one of my friends was talking about it in class and they were like, OMG, did you hear that her nudes got leaked? AKA mine. And Addie was sitting at the same table and she said, no, those are my nudes. And at first I thought this girl was just trying to be nice. I was like, oh, well, that's nice of her, you know. Like, maybe she's just trying to say that so that way nobody will bully me, I guess. Well, the one day I texted her about it. And I was like, hey, like, you don't have to do that. It's fine. I'll take responsibility for it. I did it. And she was like, what are you talking about? Those are my nudes. Like for part 2. Part 2 about the girl who was obsessed with me. So like I said, she basically told me that those were her nudes, even though I took the pictures and I knew they were mine. But I was like, okay, whatever, I'm not gonna argue with her. Well, then I get a text from my boyfriend, and he goes, what the fuck, you're so weird, why would you send me somebody else's nudes? And I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck? And I tried to explain to him that I had no fucking clue why this girl was saying they were hers. But then he said that I was weird as fuck and he broke up with me. So like a week later, I see them walking around school together. And my friends tell me that they're now dating. And I really wasn't that mad about it. I was like, okay, maybe that's the only way that she could think of to get a boyfriend. Well, I forgot that my Instagram was logged in on his phone because he had super bad trust issues and wanted to make sure I wasn't cheating on him. So I text him and I'm like, hey, can you take my Instagram off your phone? And I saw that he read my text message, but I got no response. Well, a week later, you guys are never gonna guess what fucking happened, like for part 3. Storytime about how I broke up my best friend and his girlfriend. So it was our sophomore year in high school, and my best friend and I had known each other since we were like 8 years old. And I've always had a crush on him. Like anytime he would get a girlfriend, I would try and break them up. And it would work. Well, our freshman year of high school, he started dating this one girl. Well, when he started dating her, he distanced himself from me because she didn't like how much time we were spending together. So a few months go by and my birthday's coming up. And mind you, within these past few months, we only seen each other like twice. And he had me blocked on all social media. Well, our parents were really good friends because we lived in the same cul-de-sac. So my mom invited him and his parents to my birthday party. So at the end of my party, my friends left and him and his parents stayed. And my parents really didn't care if I drank alcohol, so we had like a whole bottle of vodka to ourselves. So we're in the basement and we're taking shots together. Well, I got him super drunk and he fell asleep. And while he was sleeping, I went on his phone and like for part 2. Story time about how I was betrayed by my best friend. So a little background information. I was 16 and in 10th grade. Okay, I'm gonna warn you a little bit. I was, to put it nicely, a little crazy in 10th grade. Summer was fun, but when baseball started up, I was having the time of my life. And it was too cold outside for bonfires, so we were having house parties instead. And since I went to a private school, everybody pretty much had money. So these houses were nice as fuck. Like, there was probably not one house that we had a party at that didn't have a Lamborghini in the garage. Out here living my dream. And I had a low-key psycho best friend named Amy. A little background information on Amy. Her and I were complete opposites, but got along extremely well. She went to public school, I went to private school. Her home life was not the best. Mine was pretty good, I would say. And she did not live in the nicest area. She actually lived in a very dangerous neighborhood that I actually wasn't allowed in. But we had been best friends since the start of high school and we were pretty much invincible together. Until I threw a rager party at my house, which led me to tell my parents about her and I's drug problem. She literally OD'd off coke at like 3 in the morning. And of course I freaking panicked. So I called my parents and of course they were going to tell her parents about it. Like, what kind of people would they be if they didn't? she would have had to go to the hospital either way, and they would have found out what the hell she took. She was just acting very stupid about the whole thing, and she literally did not talk to me for a whole month. Well, then softball season came around and we started hanging out again. It was definitely nice to see her and get to talk to her, but part of me still felt a little off about what happened before. But eventually we were back on our bullshit again, doing drugs 24/7. I will say that it wasn't nearly as bad as last time, for me at least, but it was still kind of bad. It got to the point where we were bribing her brother to give us clean piss every week because we both got drug tested on Sundays. Eventually summer starts to creep up and Amy and I talk about possibly going on a trip together, because every summer at the beginning my parents would plan a trip for us to go to the Hamptons for a long weekend, which in reality it was about 2 weeks. Anyway, she offered to come with me, and that being said, she got all pissed off for me not wanting to ask my parents to buy her plane ticket, because every time, like, she was over my house pretty much 24/7, even this time around, and they would pay for everything for her. Anytime that we went to the mall, my mom would give her money and stuff like that, and my parents and I really weren't on good terms because I was being drug tested 24/7, so it just wasn't a good idea for me. But it got to the point where she was like yelling at me and stuff like that, so I just decided to ask my parents, and they said sure, she can come, but she has to be drug tested. Her parents have to check her bags before she comes and everything like that, which is kind of understandable. Like, you did OD at my house, so why are you mad? Well, that one really set her off. She texted me telling me that I should kill myself, we're not friends, we were never friends, blah blah blah, just a whole bunch of fucking bullshit. So of course I text her, being the adult one, and I tell her to calm down and we will talk about it when I get back, because I had planned to talk to her about it sooner than later. I talked my parents into getting me a flight home early. Well, this is where things start to get a little crazy, and by a little I mean a lot, and you get to see why a crackhead bitch will always be a crackhead bitch. Those weren't my words, that's just what was in the story. So the day comes where it's time for my parents and I to leave. We go to the airport, and my dad loves to show up to the airport early. For what reason, I don't know. He's just one of those freaking people. Well, I guess that our plane had hit some birds or something like that, so our flight was delayed about 10 hours, and we only lived like 25 minutes away from the airport, so we just decided to go home, sleep, and get a snack. So we drive home, and when we get to my house, we see 2 cars at the top of the driveway. Weird, right? Yeah. But then we also saw that all of our lights were on in our house. So at this point, we're sitting at the bottom of my driveway, and we had like, our driveway was super long, so we were sitting all the way at the bottom, and you had to go all the way up to the house like that. So my dad decides to call the cops, and we back down to the beginning of the driveway, and we block the entrance / only exit. Well, I guess they heard us because we saw people running out of the house and literally trying to leave in their freaking cars. They hit my dad's car trying to get out of the driveway. Well, as one of the cars drove past, it was a car that belonged to this guy that Amy had been talking to. By talking to, I mean fucking. Well, back after her drug overdose, when her and I stopped being friends, she started hanging out with these seniors who were definitely not good news. And when we became friends again, she would hang out with them less, but anytime that I was busy, those were her go-to people. So I told my parents about it. They talked to the cops. So the cops sent somebody to go and follow up on that, but they told us that it could be a while before they actually find anything. I don't know. They just said that it would take a while for them to catch these people, probably. While that was happening, we walked through the house and realized a bunch of our shit was missing. Like, they must have got there as soon as we left. All of our jewelry, designer clothes and stuff like that, fine china, it was all taken. It was all gone. Our house looked like a fucking tornado whipped through there. And like I said, Amy knew these people, so of course I call her and ask what the fuck is going on, because I refuse to hang out with these kids whenever she asked me to, so I don't know them from a fucking hole in the wall. So later that day, we didn't end up going to the Hamptons, by the way, obviously. But later, I'm on Snapchat, and I see a black screen posted on Amy's story that says, "The only only way not to get stabbed in the back is to take away the knife. What the fuck are you talking about, you delusional ass bitch? Eventually we get a call from the cops later, and they are outside of Amy's house. Apparently when they pulled up, they were looking up the value of all of our china. Like, girl, what the fuck made you think that you can sit outside on your porch after you just robbed my house and get away with that shit? She just has a few screws loose, literally. At this point, I honestly thought the whole thing was funny. The two dudes actually had to serve 3 months in juvenile detentions, and Amy had to do 6 months at rehab for setting the whole thing up, as well as being a crackhead. She cried her eyes out in court and said that her life was hard and she was just jealous of me. Then she said she was forced to do it, yada yada yada. Her parents sent her to military school after rehab, and I stopped using drugs all like that. Now they're just an occasional thing. I'm on my senior year of high school now and definitely learned my lesson about backstabbing friends. Okay everybody, that is the end of today's story time. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more of me, maybe hit that subscribe button down below. And if you want to know when I post my next video, make sure to hit that bell.
I went randonauticking with my friend and found a dead body in a trash can. So if you don't know what randonauticking is, there's this app called Randonautica. It's an app where you manifest / think about what you want, and it could be anything. Like money, love, anything, and you go to the area and the item is supposed to be there. So back to the story now. So I had a group of 4 people, excluding me. Their names were Tyra, Juliet, Emily, and Fleur. I've been friends with them since 4th grade, and we all got along well. So we got our idea from TikTok. My friends got interested and decided to get involved with it. I was kind of sketched out with the idea, and so was Tara, but Emily, Juliet, and Flora wanted to do it. So we decided to. Flora picked this up in the car, and we downloaded the app on my phone. So to make it more exciting, we decided to manifest things confidentially. So we finished the first time, and I generated a location. We finished our drive there, and it was a valley of pink flowers. I said mine worked, and we were all shocked. Flora wanted to manifest something more spooky. Me and Tyra didn't want to, but peer pressure. So I generated a location after we all manifested it, and it led us to a woodsy area in the middle of nowhere. So we went, and you will not believe what happened next. Come back for part 2. It was 40 minutes away from us, and we decided to go. While we were driving, we saw a van pass us, and the man gave us a dirty look. My intuition was telling me something was wrong, and I asked Fleur to turn around and go back, but he said everything would be fine. So we parked at a sidewalk and walked into the woodsy area. It was kind of dark, but we used our phones as flashlights. So we ended up getting this very nasty, pungent, obvious smell. It kind of smelled like a dead corpse, and it didn't rub me the right way. Fleur, for whatever reason, said we should follow it. I told him we shouldn't, but he didn't listen to me. Tyra didn't like the idea either. So we followed the smell, and we ended up walking to this trash can, and it had flies around it. This definitely gave me the creeps. Juliet ended up lifting the trash can top, and we saw a large bone and a human hand. The rest was mush. We all screamed and ran away. We drove away and never looked back. We didn't call the cops either because we didn't want to get involved. Follow for more story times, and follow my Instagram as well.